Expand your vocabulary with our Core 2000 Words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free Portuguese ebook before it's gone.
Welcome to Can Do Portuguese by PortuguesePod101.com.
Oi, gente! O meu nome é Jade Furuta. Hi, everyone! My name is Jade Furuta. In this lesson, you learn how to introduce yourself in Portuguese.
This is Mark Lee, and he's on a plane to Brazil. Alex Andrade, a passenger sitting next to him, introduces himself by saying, "Hi, I'm Alex. Nice to meet you."
Oi, eu sou Alex. Prazer.
Listen to the conversation and focus on Mark's response. Note, both Alex and Mark use only their first names. Ready?
Oi, eu sou Alex. Prazer.
Eu sou Mark. Prazer.
Once more with the English translation.
Oi, eu sou Alex. Prazer.
Hi, I'm Alex. Nice to meet you.
Eu sou Mark. Prazer.
I'm Mark. Nice to meet you.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Mark Lee introduces himself? I'm Mark. Nice to meet you.
Eu sou Mark. Prazer.
Let's start with the expression,
Prazer.
this literally means a pleasure, but it translates as nice to meet you.
Prazer. Prazer.
Both Mark and Alex use
Prazer.
in their introductions. This expression can be used in many contexts and is appropriate for both formal and informal situations. Do you remember how Mark says, "I'm Mark"?
Eu sou Mark.
First is
Eu.
I.
Eu.
Next is
Sou.
am, as in I am.
Sou.
Is from the verb
Ser.
meaning to be.
Ser.
Next is the name,
Mark.
Mark. Together it's
Eu sou Mark.
I'm Mark.
Eu sou Mark.
The pattern is
Eu sou name.
I'm name.
Eu sou name.
To use this pattern, simply replace the name placeholder with your given name or your given name and surname. Note, it's more common to use only one's given name with this pattern. Imagine you're Karen. In Portuguese,
Karen. Karen. Karen.
say, I'm Karen. Ready?
Eu sou Karen.
I'm Karen.
Eu sou Karen.
In this conversation, Mark and Alex use the expression.
Prazer.
In both cases,
Prazer.
is actually a shortened version of,
Prazer em conhecê-lo.
meaning, it's a pleasure to meet you, when addressing a male listener.
Prazer em conhecê-lo. Lo.
Indicates a singular masculine form. The gender of the person you are addressing determines the final part of this phrase for the extended version. In the conversation, both listeners were male.
In the case you address a female listener, the extended version is prazer em conhecê-la, where lá indicates the singular feminine form. Remember, you can simply say prazer, the shortened form. It's also polite and can be used with anyone. The extended versions are simply for your general awareness.
Let's look at some examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
Oi, eu sou Alex. Prazer. Oi, eu sou Alex. Prazer.
Eu sou Mark. Prazer. Eu sou Mark. Prazer.
Eu sou Karen. Prazer. Eu sou Karen. Prazer.
Eu sou Sasha Lee. Eu sou Sasha Lee.
O meu nome é Lilian. O meu nome é Lilian.
Did you notice how the last speaker uses a different pattern?
O meu nome é Lilian.
My name is Lillian. Let's start with
Nome,
name.
nome, nome.
In Portuguese, all nouns have grammatical gender and are either singular or plural.
Nome,
Is masculine and singular, a fact that determines the form of other words in the sentence. Before this is
o meu,
meaning my,
o meu. Meu
is masculine singular to agree with.
nome,
Before
meu,
is the article.
o,
Think of it like the in English.
o, o,
Is also masculine singular to agree with.
nome,
Note, in this sentence, the article
o,
does not have a corresponding English translation. In Portuguese, possessive pronouns like
meu,
my,
seu,
your, and so forth often pair with an article, like the
o,
in.
o meu,
Together it's
o meu,
my.
o meu,
Altogether,
o meu nome,
my name.
o meu nome.
Next is
É,
as in my name is.
é, é, é,
Is from the verb
ser,
meaning to be.
ser.
Together it's
O meu nome é,
my name is.
o meu nome é
Last is the name,
Lilian,
Lillian.
Lilian, Lilian.
Altogether,
O meu nome é Lilian.
my name is Lillian.
O meu nome é Lilian.
This pattern is
O meu nome é name.
my name is name. To use this pattern, simply replace the name placeholder with your given name or given name and surname. Note, this pattern requires a proper noun. Remember this pattern. You will use it later in the lesson. This is Mark Lee, and he's on a plane to Brazil. Alex Andrade, a passenger sitting next to him, asks, "Where are you from?"
De onde você é?
Listen to the conversation and focus on Mark's response. Note, The speakers in this conversation use informal Portuguese. Ready?
De onde você é?
Eu sou de Nova York.
Once more with the English translation.
De onde você é?
Where are you from?
Eu sou de Nova York.
I'm from New York.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Alex Andrade asks, "Where are you from?"
De onde você é?
Let's start with
Onde?
meaning where.
Onde? Onde?
Before this is
De,
meaning from in this context.
de.
Together,
De onde?
literally, from where. Last is
Você é?
you are.
Você é?
First is
Você.
meaning you in this context.
Você. Você.
Note, in Brazilian Portuguese,
Você.
is used when addressing someone in a casual conversation. After this is
É.
literally is, but translates as are in this context.
É. É. É.
Is from the verb
Ser.
meaning to be.
Ser. Ser.
Together,
Você é?
literally means you is, but translates as you are.
Você é?
Note,
Você.
you is always followed by a verb in the third person singular, as in,
Você é?
literally, you is, but translates as you are. This is because
Você.
derives from
Vossa mercê.
a form of address meaning your mercy, similar to other honorifics like your excellency or your honor. Thus,
Você.
began its life as a third-person singular pronoun, and therefore requires a verb in the third-person singular to agree with it. Altogether,
De onde você é?
literally, from where you is, but translates as where are you from?
De onde você é?
Remember this question. You'll hear it again later in this lesson.
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Mark Lee says, "I'm from New York"?
Eu sou de Nova York.
Let's start with
Nova York.
New York.
Nova York. Nova York.
In Portuguese, all nouns have grammatical gender, and, therefore, often appear with an article. However, city names like
Nova York.
are almost always used without articles, a fact which will determine the forms of other words in the sentence. Before
Nova York.
is
De.
from in this context.
De. De.
Together,
De Nova York.
from New York. Moving to the front of the sentence, first is
Eu.
I.
Eu. Eu.
Next is
Sou.
am.
Sou. Sou. Sou.
Is from the verb
Ser.
meaning to be.
Ser.
Altogether,
Eu sou de Nova York.
I'm from New York.
Eu sou de Nova York.
The pattern is
Eu sou de city name.
I am from city name.
Eu sou de city name.
To use this pattern, simply replace the city name placeholder with the name of your hometown. Note, this sentence pattern works with most city names, as most city names don't appear with an article. Imagine you're from Sydney. In Portuguese,
Sydney. Sydney. Sydney.
say, I'm from Sydney. Ready?
Eu sou de Sydney.
I'm from Sydney.
Eu sou de Sydney.
The key pattern works with cities, as most cities don't appear with an article. However, this is not the case with cities named after common nouns. For cities named after common nouns, the corresponding article will change depending on the gender of the common noun. For example,
Rio de Janeiro.
is named after the masculine noun,
Rio.
meaning river. In Portuguese, all nouns have grammatical gender and are either singular or plural.
Rio.
Is masculine and singular, a fact which will determine the form of other words in the sentence. The corresponding definite article for masculine singular nouns is,
O.
as in,
O Rio.
the river. When
De.
precedes
O. De.
plus
O.
becomes,
Do.
therefore, I'm from Rio de Janeiro, is,
Eu sou do Rio de Janeiro. Eu sou do Rio de Janeiro. Guarda.
a city in Portugal is named after the feminine noun,
Guarda.
meaning guard. For feminine singular nouns, the corresponding definite article is,
A.
as in,
Aguarda.
the guard. When
De.
precedes
A. De.
plus
A.
becomes,
Da.
therefore, I'm from Guarda is,
Eu sou da guarda. Eu sou da guarda.
you should be aware of this, but you won't need it for this lesson. For this lesson, recall city names, like,
Nova York.
are almost always used without articles, and therefore the pattern is,
Eu sou de city name.
let's look at some examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
Eu sou de Nova York. Eu sou de Nova York.
Eu sou de Porto Alegre. Eu sou de Porto Alegre.
Eu sou de Seattle. E você? Eu sou de Seattle. E você?
Eu sou de Londres. Eu sou de Londres.
Eu sou de São Paulo. Eu sou de São Paulo.
Eu sou australiana. Eu sou australiana.
Did you notice how the last speaker uses a different pattern?
Eu sou australiana.
I'm Australian.
Eu sou australiana.
First is
Eu,
I.
eu
Next is
sou,
am.
sou,
Together,
eu sou,
I'm.
eu sou
Next is
australiana.
an Australian woman.
Australiana.
Here, Mia Martin uses a feminine adjective
Australiana.
to describe herself. Altogether,
Eu sou australiana.
I'm Australian.
Eu sou australiana.
This pattern is
Eu sou nationality.
I'm nationality. To use this pattern, simply replace the nationality placeholder with your nationality. Note, this pattern requires an adjective, and its gender will depend on the gender of the speaker. Mia Martin uses a feminine adjective.
Australiana.
A male speaker from Australia would use a masculine adjective.
Australiano. Eu sou australiano.
I'm Australian.
Eu sou australiano.
You can use this response to answer the question.
De onde você é?
You should be aware of this pattern, but you won't need it for this lesson. Welcome to Can Do Portuguese by PortuguesePod101.com.
Oi, gente! O meu nome é Jade Furuta. Hi, everyone! My name is Jade Furuta. In this lesson, you learn how to talk about your occupation in Portuguese.
This is Mark Lee, and he's on a plane to Brazil. He asks the passenger sitting next to him, Alex Andrade, "Are you a student?"
Você é estudante?
Listen to the conversation and focus on Alex's response. Note, the speakers in this conversation use informal Portuguese. Ready?
Você é estudante?
Não, eu não sou estudante. Eu sou investidor.
Once more with the English translation.
Você é estudante?
Are you a student?
Não, eu não sou estudante. Eu sou investidor.
No, I'm not a student. I'm an investor.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Mark asks, "Are you a student?"
Você é estudante?
Let's start with the word
Estudante.
student.
Estudante. Estudante.
In Portuguese, nouns have grammatical gender and are either singular or plural. However, the noun
Estudante.
student is a special case, as it has just one form for both masculine and feminine genders. In this case,
Estudante.
is masculine singular, as Mark is addressing Alex. Next is
Você é.
you are.
Você é.
First is
Você.
meaning you informal.
Você. Você.
Note, in Brazilian Portuguese,
Você.
is used when addressing someone in a casual conversation. After this is
É.
literally is, but translates as are in this context.
É. É. É.
Is from the verb,
Ser.
meaning to be.
Ser. Ser.
Together,
Você é.
literally means you is, but translates as you are.
Você é.
Note,
Você.
you is always followed by the verb in the third person singular, as in,
Você é.
literally, you is, but translates as you are. Altogether,
Você é estudante?
literally, you is student, but translates as are you a student?
Você é estudante?
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Alex says, "No, I'm not a student. I'm an investor"?
Não, eu não sou estudante. Eu sou investidor.
First is
Não.
meaning no.
Não. Não.
It answers Mark's yes or no question. Are you a student?
Você é estudante?
After this, Alex Andrade specifies that he's not a student.
Eu não sou estudante.
I'm not a student.
Eu não sou estudante.
First is
Eu.
I.
Eu.
After this is
Não.
meaning not.
Não. Não.
Next is
Sou.
am.
Sou. Sou.
Is from the verb
Ser.
meaning to be.
Ser.
Together, it's
Eu não sou.
literally I not am, but translates as I am not.
Eu não sou.
After this is
Estudante.
student.
Estudante.
Again, masculine singular in this case, as Alex is responding. Altogether,
Eu não sou estudante.
literally, I not am student, but translates as I'm not a student.
Eu não sou estudante.
Alex then tells Mark his actual occupation.
Eu sou investidor.
I'm an investor.
Eu sou investidor.
First is
Eu.
I.
Eu.
Next is
Sou.
am.
Sou.
Next is
Investidor.
investor.
Investidor. Investidor. Investidor.
Is a masculine singular noun. Together,
Eu sou investidor.
I'm an investor.
Eu sou investidor.
Altogether,
Não, eu não sou estudante. Eu sou investidor.
no, I'm not a student. I'm an investor.
Não, eu não sou estudante. Eu sou investidor.
The pattern is
Não, eu não sou occupation. Eu sou actual occupation.
no, I'm not occupation. I'm actual occupation. To use this pattern, simply replace the occupation and actual occupation placeholders with the occupations that are appropriate to the conversation. Note, this pattern requires nouns. Their gender will depend on the gender of the speaker. Imagine you're Emma Espinosa, a student. Recall, the word for a female student is also
Estudante. Estudante.
Alex Andrade asks you if you're a teacher,
Professora.
a female teacher.
Professora. Professora.
Say, No, I'm not a teacher. I'm a student. Ready?
Não, eu não sou professora. Eu sou estudante.
No, I'm not a teacher. I'm a student.
Não, eu não sou professora. Eu sou estudante.
In Portuguese, many of the occupation nouns differ depending on gender. For example, architect, arquiteto, arquiteto, arquiteta, arquiteta.
In Portuguese, there are some rules of thumb for the gender of nouns. Nouns that end in O tend to be masculine. For example,
Arquiteto,
architect, masculine singular form.
médico,
Doctor, masculine singular form. While nouns that end in A tend to be feminine. For example,
arquiteta,
architect, feminine singular form.
médica,
Doctor, feminine singular form.
In Portuguese, some occupations share the same word for both genders, such as estudante, student, estudante, dentista, dentist, dentista.
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
Não, eu não sou estudante. Eu sou investidor. Não, eu não sou estudante. Eu sou investidor.
Não, eu não sou professora. Eu sou estudante. Não, eu não sou professora. Eu sou estudante.
Não, eu não sou professor. Eu sou engenheiro. Não, eu não sou professor. Eu sou engenheiro.
Não, eu não sou enfermeira. Eu sou médica. Não, eu não sou enfermeira. Eu sou médica.
Não, eu não sou estudante. Eu sou professora. Não, eu não sou estudante. Eu sou professora.
não, eu sou barista. Não, eu sou barista.
Did you notice how the last speaker omits part of the response?
Não, eu sou barista.
No, I'm a barista.
Não, eu sou barista.
When directly responding to someone's question, it's often possible to omit part of the response. Here, by simply answering
Não,
no, there's no need to say,
eu não sou estudante.
I'm not a student. The pattern is,
Não, eu sou actual occupation.
no, I'm actual occupation. Remember this pattern. You'll need it for the practice section.
Want to speed up your language learning? Take your very first lesson with us. You'll start speaking in minutes and master real conversations. Sign up for your free lifetime account. Just click the link in the description.